This is the emergency podcast system. This is not a test. Movies are bombing all over the country. They are posing as movies you already know. They may already be in your theaters, your neighbor's home, or even your own. Do not panic. Specialists have been dispatched. They will help you identify these pretenders and defend you against this invasion of the remake. Please stand by for further instructions.
Welcome to the Invasion of the Remake podcast. I am your host, Jason Bishop, and with me, as always, is Trish Coughlin.
Hey, everybody.
And Sam Stepanenko.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you're listening.
Yeah. So it's been a little longer for us in our record time. We kind of ate up our extra episodes. I've been laid up.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
I had an injury, and it just for the first week or so there, it made it kind of impossible to even do setup.
Damn ladders.
Yeah, fell off a ladder, really screwed up my foot.
Really screwed up his foot.
Like super.
Yeah, super bad. I'm off crutches and stuff now, but I should be back to work soon, probably tomorrow. So
I do have to say that going to the emergency room at midnight on a Monday night is not a bad thing. It was relatively painless.
Well, we were home by midnight.
Yeah.
We were home before 11:30. It was actually pretty good.
Yeah, it was actually pretty
we were
good.
in and out in an hour and a half.
Yeah, which is really impressive for an emergency room here.
Yeah.
So people are careful on Mondays? Is that what I'm getting?
No, actually, the doctor said they were really busy earlier. I just caught a break.
Yeah.
Okay, so injure yourself late at night, everybody.
No, it's all a timing thing. Thankfully, just said it was a sprain and would be a couple weeks, but I didn't know how severe.
It was pretty severe.
Would have been nice if you told me the level of severity, because usually I've sprained my ankles many, many times, but I'm usually on it in a couple of days. Like, I was not. It's a week, 2 weeks tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus.
You did a number on it.
Yeah. No, that was a good one. No, it was a bad one.
Yeah.
That was a fucking bad one. Ow. Still, ow.
To be fair, it takes a certain amount of skill to do it that much.
Well, I caught air. you got to get some height on it to get it that bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I should have been injured a number of times. I fell out of a kind of a peach picker when I was in Australia. I should have been dead.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was on my stairwell. I could have fallen down the stairs. There were other bruises and stuff. Of course, was completely unaware of them until a couple of days later. Because, the main pain was in my foot. But there was a huge bruise up my leg from my ankle up to just under my knee here. And then little one on my other foot and my knee on the other leg, and
wow. So shout out to the stunt people out there who can fall downstairs and make it look easy.
Anybody want to hang pictures for me? I'm done hanging pictures. Fucking hell.
No, at least not without safety wire, right?
That's right.
Yeah, we'll get you a harness.
Stunt coordinator, let's figure this out.
Yeah.
I'm completely inept to go up 3 steps.
Yeah.
Shit. But don't worry, guys, I'm on the mend, so we're back. Not that you ever missed us.
Yeah.
It's been a week for you guys. It's been a couple for me, so I'm just getting back in my groove and getting some energy back. So today we're going to be talking about King Kong, not once, not twice, but thrice. We got 3 King Kongs to talk about because Kong Skull Island is opening Friday.
Yeah.
That one's kind of interesting to me. It looks really cool. It's by the guys from Legendary who did Godzilla, and it is part of that monsterverse. They are creating a monsterverse with King Kong and Godzilla. So I guess the majority of it's going to be built around the Toho characters, and then King Kong thrown in. I don't know. We only really have one good giant monster, and that's King Kong.
No.
I think the rest are Japanese.
Yeah.
So
I think you're right.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't know. The only, Pacific Rim is the only big...
Which is possibility to tie in, because Legendary did that as well, but because it's already set in the future, and they've explained how their kaijus already work, I don't know if it's going to mesh well with the Godzilla stuff.
I don't know, unless those kaijus are descendants. I don't know.
Yeah, and King Kong's already met Godzilla once.
Yes.
Toho managed to get the license. We'll get into some of the legal issues because when it comes to the Library of Godzilla, it's not very, or King Kong, I should say, it's not very long,
No.
because it was actually owned by its creator and writer, which was Marion C. Cooper, who also directed the original film. And through all sorts of nonsense, there was RKO thought they owned it, and
it was only 2 movies that it was.
yeah, and
given
when
to
he
them.
was trying to, God, I would have given my left nut to see this. They were Cooper was.
Why
trying,
is it always your left?
I don't know, because I'm a righty.
No, but like, isn't that the saying? Why is it always the left one? Is that like just the
I don't know.
sinister
I'm sure-
testicle?
I'm sure left-handed people would say the right, so I don't know. It's just
I
a thing.
don't know. Yeah, I see your point, but it's somebody coined the term and it got just carried on that way, and
Yeah,
it's the left nut.
and I'm
deal
talking
with it.
walnuts.
Okay,
I'm not talking.
I know,
I'm
I
not
just-
talking bodily nuts. I only own 2
Yeah.
walnuts, and you can have the one on the left.
Oh, okay.
'Cause-
Yeah. See, I was just curious because I don't have any nuts of my own.
The last nut on the left. So Cooper was going to get Tarzan versus King Kong happening,
Yes.
and God, I would have loved to have seen that,
That would have been great.
That would have been amazing.
because I was a big Tarzan fan growing up. Really was. I loved all that.
Well, I
stuff.
mean, giant ape and like the ape man type of deal. That's a
Yeah.
great matchup.
oh, especially if you would have got the Ray Harryhausen effects in there.
Oh, yeah, so good. Like I just love the original ones. I do. It's
I really like stop motion, and it says a lot about it when I think, even as raw as Harryhausen was in 1933, I think that King Kong looked better than the 76.
yes.
It was certainly
I-
more expressive.
Well, in some ways, I think that 76 got the eyes way better. The eyes were amazing in the 76 version.
Well, it was a mask. They were using
it was
somebody's
a
real
guy.
eyes to do
and
It was a dude.
expressions, but there was still a lot of mechanical.
But the actual like full body shots of I have to agree, Harryhausen's were better. I'd
Oh
say.
God, the full body shot
Yeah.
right near the
You
end.
tell it's a dude in a suit.
No, it's just the one that they didn't composite.
Oh,
Like
okay.
it was this big giant thing, and it's just you could tell it was not made for any kind of mobility. It was really stiff looking. It was just
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. Like, there were parts of Harryhausen, the close up stuff at the very beginning, didn't care for it. It was just too raw. You could tell that it wasn't. He wasn't as practiced as
Yeah.
you got later.
And neither one of those films was ever going to compare to what Peter Jackson could do with computers in 2005.
But it's not even a fair comparison. Right?
no.
Right? It really isn't. But both of them had their moments where they were both really good.
Yeah.
Overall, I have to agree that the 33 version actually did look better.
Yes.
Yeah, you know what? 76. Oh man, we'll get into that, but I had some problems with 76.
Oh, I have numerous issues with 76 as well. So we're probably the same issues.
Yeah.
I had numerous issues with the number of them, but I like 33. It's a tighter movie.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because I was talking to Sam before when we decided to do this, and I'm like, hey, Sam, don't worry about 3 movies. Like, the original's really short. Well, in my brain from when I originally saw it, it was because there were so many cuts of this film, and I didn't realize the original cut's around an hour 44.
Yeah, and that's the cut that I have.
That's the cut I saw. That one came back out in 2005 with the Peter Jackson release.
Yeah.
But it'd been cut for TV and everything else, and there's some things that haven't aged as well in that movie, 1933. There's some, some racist undertones to that
Oh my
film.
goodness, yeah.
Yeah, there is, and there's
But I
lots
don't
of
think they're horrible. But yeah,
racist and sexist.
racist, sexist, and well, at least racial stereotyping,
yeah.
which doesn't fly so well.
Although I have something of of a certain racist take on, like the Peter Jackson one has something in there as well. I'll get into that.
Yeah. But it's a portrait of the time, right? Like,
Well, 1933, that's what you would have.
yeah, and through multiple eras of PC comes and goes as it does, things get edited for our safety. But you know what? That's a portrait of history. That was then. We're wiser, smarter now, and that just was an ugly time, and where sensitivity wasn't a thing.
Well, no, I mean, when you think about it, I mean, the civil rights movement hadn't even happened yet.
No, that's
No.
right. Women's lib hadn't happened yet. Not really.
No, it did.
It was just starting, wasn't it? 1933.
No, 1933. It was
pre-World
not.
War.
They had
This is pre-code.
No, 1929 was when we got the vote. Like less than 100 years ago, I couldn't vote anywhere.
Yeah. But it was still relatively new. I mean,
But you look good for your age.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
She talks like she was there.
If I'd been born that time, I wouldn't have. Like that's just the deal. It's
That's
not
true. Yeah.
when you were talking about a time frame, how you think that it's like this feminist thing. Like it's really recent. It's not.
Yeah,
it's really
well, and
not.
there was still kind of segregation
civil rights,
in
not
society as
recent.
well. The with black people at the back of the bus. That was all happening in 33. That was a thing. Like
that was up until the 50s, 60s.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus.
Just getting people to go to school.
Yeah.
That was not as far back as everybody thinks.
Yeah. that's
People's
true.
parents were alive at that time.
True.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah. But
so,
anywho.
yeah, I understand why the cut. So this watch was my first time seeing the original cut in its original form. So that was kind of cool to see it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I get it now. I can see, because I think the cut I saw was like 89 minutes.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's taking out at least 10 minutes.
That's a lot of footage.
Yeah.
So
yeah, 10 minutes of footage. Like when you're talking about what stuff they cut out now, it's like a scene or like a kill or like it's a few seconds. You can cut off like 2 minutes of a film sometimes when they're like the stuff that's really objectionable.
Mm-hmm.
But 10 minutes is a lot of film to cut.
the 76 is about 15-20 minutes longer.
2 hours and 14 minutes.
Yeah,
so on my thing there. But including credits and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's probably about 2 hours.
Yeah.
Little over 2 hours.
Over 2
I'd
hours.
say 2 hours 5 minutes.
That was
something
my
like
whole
that.
thing. I'm like, is it because it's such a big ape it has to be over 2 hours? I don't understand.
That was the one that had the most changes, and we'll get into that. But and then both of them you can watch in one sitting, and probably still have time
Be
to
less
go
than
to
the
the
Peter Jackson
washroom. A number 2, and still
A
have
hard
Peter-
number 2, like one you're having
Yeah.
trouble with.
Did you guys watch the director's cut or the original theatrical? I watched the original theatrical.
I don't know which version I watched, to be completely honest.
Mine was over 3 hours, so I don't
Well,
know what I
they're
watched.
both are over 3. The original cut's about just over 3 hours. I think it's 3 hours
I
5
watched the
minutes or
theatrical
whatever.
then.
I think there's another 20 minutes on
The one I watched was 3
director's
hours
cut.
14. That was a lot.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure about yours then. Yeah, I'm not sure how much footage was added in the director's cut. So, yeah, and there's a shitload of appendices and stuff. But I watched the original theatrical cut because that's the one I have,
Nice.
and I realized why I haven't watched it in so long.
If I hadn't have seen the first two, I probably wouldn't have minded the 3 hours.
It's a spectacular looking movie.
It looks fantastic. The performances are excellent.
Yeah.
I like the fact that he stayed true to the original to a large extent in terms of the characterizations for most of the characters. I mean, they changed Jack, but
Yeah, well, they made them full-rounded characters. That's what took a lot of the time, was really getting into these characters, what motivates them, so you understood everything about them going in, and you were invested in them. Even a lot of the side characters, you really gave a shit about.
Yeah.
So he did that beautifully and masterfully.
his development of the relationship between Kong and
And
Yeah.
Man. I mean, because that's the
see,
only
I
one that
got
did that.
that.
Yeah, you
That's-
actually see a change in Kong.
in Kong and her, she actually cares about him, right?
Yeah.
They tried to do that in the '76 movie, but not to the same effect that Peter Jackson did, not by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, it was the 76 one. This is one I found. It was very uneven. Whereas Dwan, what a name. She goes
It's
back
like
and
Dawn.
forth.
It's like Dawn, but with Dawn.
But I swapped 2 letters so you'd remember it. Like she's just bonkers because at the same time she seems to care about Kong. Like there's a point where I'm like, okay, this is where we get to the point where she cares about Kong, and then like a super about face where she's afraid of him again, and I'm like, what? Just like I couldn't see any growth. It was she kind of ended up back and forth and didn't really get anywhere.
Well, and that's I think that might be why they didn't really like her performance in that movie because it did get panned.
Sorry, that's me. I owe everybody a beer.
If he doesn't remind us, he forgets.
I do, and then everybody's
Yeah.
screwed. If I don't remind them, then everybody's phones go off.
Actually, I turned mine off before I even came in because I remembered.
Oh, look at you.
I usually have mine on silent, just generally, because that's just the way I am. But yeah, I don't. For some reason, and you get notes, like you get texts and everything, always during this time.
Oh, God, that's why I turn it off. It's like nobody talks to me all weekend until I'm recording.
And It's
Exactly.
like, and they know you record on Sunday afternoons.
It's baffling to me.
They're doing it on purpose.
All right, well, let's really dig into this. I'm going to run the trailer for 1933, and we'll be right back to talk some more about King Kong.
We're millionaires, boys. I'll share it with all of you. Why, in a few months, we'll be up in lights on Broadway. Kong, the eighth wonder of the world. Wild, weird, wonderful. The stuff for which movies were made. Adventure to make you wonder if it's true, while your eyes convince you that it is. Truly, the thrill of thrills. Don't miss it this time.
All right, we are back. No, we were talking while that was running, and in this re-release of the original cut, there's like a 5-minute, 4-minute, 4.5-minute orchestrational piece that I'm just
Just at the beginning.
baffled by.
It made no sense to be there. Like,
Yeah.
none whatsoever.
Do you think it might have had to do with when it was released? That was like people would have time to get to their seats or something. Is
Or maybe,
it that?
yeah, maybe it's like that 5-minute
It's
warning.
how we use previews now.
Yeah, the 5-minute warning. You better hurry to get your popcorn because when this song ends,
Well,
the movie
and don't
begins.
forget, in the 30s, they were still doing shorts and cartoons at the beginning of a movie. So you get all your shorts,
Right.
and then they give you that 5 minutes to go to the bathroom, get your more popcorn, get drinks, that kind of thing, right? So that's probably
That
what it was
could be
there
it.
for.
Yeah, you're probably right actually about that.
Because sadly enough, I actually used to love Sunday mornings on PBS. They used to do like the whole like classic theater thing where you get a whole like day, like a whole theater experience all in like one morning on Sunday mornings. I used to love it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's where I
no.
discovered Laurel and Hardy and Abbott and Costello because they were all started off as those comedic shorts before the feature film.
I saw a lot of that stuff. It would kind of be really early Saturday mornings before the cartoons started. So I'd see that stuff, but I didn't see it with that kind of experience before
No.
a feature film or something like that. That's cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. Yeah, I can't remember what it was called, but I remember I was probably about 8 or 9.
I've always wanted, I don't know why a studio, especially when a studio as big as like Disney or something that's releasing 5-6 movies in a year or more, doesn't do a serial. Especially, I mean, Indiana Jones was built to be a serial.
Oh,
That's
for
what
sure.
it's based off of. So, like, I would love to see something new, but you have to go see all these other movies to get the complete story.
That'd be
like,
cool.
It's brilliant.
It is. It's absolutely
brilliant.
I've
brilliant.
been saying this for like almost 20 years now. I'm like, why won't anybody? And it's going to take somebody with some real clout to be able to pull that shit off.
You know what? Marvel has the perfect opportunity. Disney again, you're right,
Yeah.
but Marvel
Yeah.
had the perfect opportunity to do that, and they kind of are with the Infinity Gauntlet stuff at the end of the movie, right?
But that's just a scene, and
it's
that's
just a
not
scene.
enough.
Like I said, it's kind of those are teasers rather than actual
Yeah.
serial. But
like I would have said Spielberg 10, 15 years ago could have pulled that off.
yeah,
Any Star Wars movie can pull that off, and that would work just fine. And you'd have all these people just to go see the short. Makes me wonder if everybody would leave after the short, though.
Well, for some of the animated films, when I was talking about like Finding Dory, I saw the Oscar-winning short Piper. That was before the movie. So I mean, I think some of the theatrical like cartoons could probably do that with like an animated character, but that's sort of probably where you would have to start.
Yeah, well,
And the problem is with all the big Marvel movies is you're already looking at 2 hours.
That is true.
You can't put another 10 minutes before that, or it's just too much.
yeah, you're probably right about that. Those big tent poles tend to be around 2 hours, and it gets a bit weighty in there. And does that add to anything to your ticket prices in the end? It might bolster a lesser movie, but you don't need it in front of a Marvel movie.
Well,
No.
like I said, when I was in Iceland and they gave us an intermission during Mad Max, that is the most brilliant move. Sure, it's 10 minutes. You go up, you pee, you get more popcorn. You actually do make money if you put an intermission in a movie.
For theaters, yeah. I mean, it doesn't do anything for a studio. Theaters generally, I'm like, well, they want to get more showings in, so they don't do that. But they make the most money at concessions, so it makes me wonder why they don't. But
Yeah, and I mean, like, you can still, with the time in between each film, you can get a lot of showings in. You're still not
You're only
losing
giving
a
up
lot of
10
time.
minutes, right?
10
It's not-
minutes.
yeah.
That's it. You're fine.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I don't know. So, King Kong, 1933, directed by Marion C. Cooper, who also created this thing. Story was by Edgar Wallace as well as Cooper. And there was a shit ton of people on this thing. There were writers, there were co-writers. James Ashmore Creelman and Ruth Rose. James Creelman, he is best known for Most Dangerous Games. So we may cover that on the show at some point. The movie was directed by Marion C. Cooper and Ernest B. Shodasak. Make your own joke. Both also involved with as writer and director of Mighty Joe Young, which we will cover at some point. And
Yeah.
of course, Shodasak also directed The Son of Kong, 1933, which I did watch during this whole Kong thing. Budgeted for this movie was, I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, but think 1933, so I'll do an adjustment here. 1933, $672,000, which in today's dollars is about $12 million.
Yeah.
So still low budget. Box office was $2.8 million. Otherwise, $51 million in today's dollars. So huge success.
Yeah.
That's why King Kong has resonated for so long, and may have solely been the reason why RKO Pictures didn't go bankrupt in 1933 and lasted many more years after that.
Absolutely.
You need to think, and this just popped into my head now. I was mentioning like 51 million in 1933. That's good box office here, but it's not great box office here. But think of how many theaters they would have had back then. So few.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have had these big multiplexes. You wouldn't have had 40 theaters in a single city.
Yeah, and 1933 was the Depression.
Yes. So that is really impressive when you really break it down that way.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. So huge box office. Cooper was the one who created it. He licensed it to RKO, and as we talked at the top of this, everybody thought they owned it, and
For like 2 movies, that's what he thought he gave it to them for.
And during his service in the war, his proof kind of disappeared. And
Somehow.
you can come up with conspiracy theories or whatever, but more than likely it was just a victim of recycling of the time.
Yeah.
But the only rights he wound up holding were the written rights to the novel, and so
For a certain period of time until
Yeah.
the Cooper judgment.
Yeah, well, and then eventually that became public domain, so anybody can adapt the novel now.
There's the whole Cooper judgment thing, which was not about public domains. Universal it was 1976, this whole thing kind of came out, and Universal was suing, saying it was public domain. And part of that judgment was how Universal at certain points was asserting that Donkey Kong was infringing on their rights and going after Nintendo for that, saying that they owned it. But the judgment at the end was they went hard on Universal, where they said that the judgment was that Universal, you're trying to have it both ways. You said, A, it was public domain when it was in your favor, and B, it was yours when you were doing this. You were just trying to use the courts to make money.
Yeah, and meanwhile, they were also combating Dino De Laurentiis, who was also trying to get King Kong off the ground at that time. So there's actually two movies. The King Kong Lives is Dino De Laurentiis from 86?
86. That's the second one.
Yeah.
But he did do the 76 one.
But that was a Universal Pictures release.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Crazy. Everybody kind of knows the story to this because it's resonated so long and hard in society. I mean, even here in Calgary, we had a poster shop with King Kong on the side of a building.
Yeah.
And even though that poster shop is no longer with us, it's still there.
King Kong's still there, yeah.
King Kong is still outside that building.
On 16th Avenue.
Yeah, and we just see it everywhere. It's in toys and comics and video games and cartoons and multiple films, and a stage play even. So it's resonated for a long period of time. So we kind of already know the basic story of this. King Kong starred Fay Wray, who became famous off of this movie.
But she was actually, I was listening to the commentary.
She was accomplished actress
today.
before this movie.
Yeah, she was doing a few movies at the same time she was working on King Kong.
Oh, that was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this was her first actual.
This is her big
film.
break, yeah. But she was working at the same time. She was still a very accomplished actress before.
Yeah, beautiful Fay Wray. Robert Armstrong, Bruce Cabot, Frank Riker, Sam Hardy, and from episode 61, our favorite not porn actor, Noble Johnson.
Love him.
He was the native chief in this. I guess you needed a giant black man. You called Noble Johnson in 1933.
That was the thing. Like with we were talking about the nature of the time.
Poor guy got the worst stereotype roles.
But that's the
But
thing.
that's how they
It
go
was.
work in Hollywood at that time. Right?
In
It's
Hollywood,
true.
like Gone with the Wind, like the first black actress to get an Oscar playing like a hysterical mate. Like that's what she was gonna get.
At least he got credit. What about that poor Asian actor who played Charlie, the Chinese guy?
Yes,
The Chinese cook. Oh my God.
and he's a significant character.
He is. And I'm like, he didn't even get a screen credit.
I know.
Poor guy.
Yeah, and but again, that's what you guys were talking about earlier. We were talking about earlier is how different times were then, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make it acceptable, but we have to accept the fact that was the reality of the time.
Yeah, but
And that
But,
just
I
goes
mean,
to show
this is
how much
also
we've
an era-
grown over the last 100 years.
This is an era where you had one card for credits, right?
Yeah.
For your actors.
oh yeah, it
Like,
was all the
it's-
major ones. People who had lines in this movie also don't have credits.
I mean, we credit everybody, gaffers and Best Boys and, the guy who brought me that muffin one day. They all get credits now. And it wasn't like that back in 1933.
The only
so-
upsetting thing I found is I wanted to know who was the guy who was carrying the gas bombs, like that big giant guy. Like he
Oh,
was.
yeah.
I was like, oh, he's kind of handsome. What is his name? I'm never gonna find out.
You can't go look for other movies with him in them.
I'm
right?
sure there's a book
No.
or something that tells everybody who.
There's
all these
gotta be
people are.
something, but
'Cause
yeah.
there's a lot of people in this movie.
There are a lot.
Well,
of
because you
people,
have
yeah.
a ship full of them, right?
Yeah, but most of them they
And
don't.
a whole
the
village
credits,
full
the
of
official
people
credits
too, right?
don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was full of people.
Yeah.
I mean, of all of them, this one probably had the most people. Like it was a full on community.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, if RKO Pictures was in trouble, this was obviously a big risk. If it flopped, they were done.
Yeah.
Because this is an expensive movie for that time.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, this would have ended them
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah.
No, they had a lot of faith.
It built careers and kept them going for a very long period of time. Now, basic plot: Fay Wray is an actress, an aspiring actress, and they need somebody for this part for this documentary filmmaker, and the studios are wanting him to have a little more well-rounded character and actually have some story into his documentaries. But he seems to be very well-renowned for his documentaries. But it doesn't sound like he actually wants to do it.
Well,
He's kind of reluctant about it, but
you know how we complain about how sometimes it's these studios who are adding crap that we don't want to see and doesn't make any sense. That's kind of what he's really against.
Yeah,
'cause
he
Like
just
when they
is-
want to show tits when there's no reason to have tits.
Yeah.
That's what he's pissed off about, and I get that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he's a wildlife filmmaker. Like he films wildlife in their natural environments. He's an adventurer, right? Instead of hunting them with a gun, he hunts them with a camera. That
Yeah.
was kind of the impression I got for Carl. Right? That's what he did.
No, that was Jack.
Jack?
Oh no, Carl. Yeah, Carl's
the filmmaker.
And then Jack was the
He's the first mate on the ship.
first mate on the ship. Yeah, he's the first mate on the ship. It's going to get confusing because these characters are different depending on the
Yeah,
films.
they have a different character. But what I'm wondering, I don't know, I was watching it this morning. Was Anne actually an actress? Or she was just down on her luck and he offered her the part of being an actress?
That's true. They don't establish that. And that's
Nope. They do it in the remake, but they do not do that.
in the remake, but yeah.
And she's completely different in the 1976 version.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But she's still an actress, quote unquote.
Yeah.
They find floating on a boat. Now,
In the middle of the ocean.
Bruce Cabot's actually credited as John Driscoll, but they call him Jack through the whole movie. So
Well,
that
Jack-
At
was,
one
John-
point, they do say John again. I got confused partway through because she does say John. It goes back and forth.
because when I wrote, because I always pre-write all this stuff out before I watched the movie, and I kept waiting for John. I'm like, where's John? He's a major character. Where's John? And then I made the connection. I'm like, oh, it's Jack. It's the first mate.
I wonder if there isn't a time where like they start filming and they're like, oh crap, it would be so better if his name was like Jack, or it was like, oh, maybe it should be John.
Too late to change the credit cards.
Kind of, or they're partway through the script and they just keep going, and we're like, maybe nobody will notice. Jack, John, kind of interchangeable. We'll be fine.
Yeah, I've heard of people, for some reason, shortening John to Jack. It's actually pretty common practice, believe it or not.
Those wacky 1933
Yeah.
people.
Really?
Yeah.
That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, it's
Because it's shorter with the same amount of letters and same syllables.
Yeah, I don't know, but I've seen it in books and I've seen it in other movies and television as well.
No wonder they tank their economy. If that's what they think, it's less. This is why the 30s happened, people. This type of stupid bullshit.
This really weird thoughts on efficiency.
Yes, that's why it all went downhill. Think of this, people.
So anyway, Favorite Ann Darrow is brought on this boat with the documentary filmmaker, the first mate. Jack is really anti-women. They're nothing but trouble.
I know. What the fuck?
He's just giving her the gears for a good half of the movie. Why? Because you're pains in the ass. I love, though, that
let's see a
the
word where you
original
don't have any.
script for this film is the movie, the dialogue they're shooting in Peter Jackson's.
Yes.
Yep.
They're basically just shooting those scenes as the fictional scenes. I'm like, that's great.
Yep.
That's
a good
great.
idea.
Yeah, and it just shows how much Peter Jackson loved that original movie.
Yeah, and his love for movies shows, and you can tell when he really loves something because they're always over 3.5 hours. It's just retarded.
long.
Yeah, like he's an Uber nerd for The Hobbit, obviously.
Yes.
Well,
9 hours.
yeah.
Sorry.
Well, what was funny is this when at the beginning, if we go into Peter Jackson's movie, I'm just making a comparison here.
We jump around all the time.
In the 1933, they're like, oh, well, you got to add a woman. But in the Peter Jackson one, they're doing a screening of his footage. And they're like, well, how much more of this? There's like 6 more hours. And I'm like, going,
5 more
crap,
reels.
Peter, you should have just played this part. Because that probably would have made the most sense. Because they're going to be like, oh, God, there's so much of it.
It is kind of meta, isn't it? Mm-hmm. After the and he hadn't even made The Hobbit yet. This was right after Lord of the Rings.
Oh, Peter Jackson's is
Yeah,
totally
but after Lord of the Rings, this makes sense, you see?
Oh yeah, no, it's very self-referential
Yeah.
for sure. And then he did it again anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't care.
Yeah.
People are going to go see them because they look fucking fantastic.
Well, at the end of the day, filmmakers, and I won't group myself in there even though I haven't made much, we make movies for us. And we just hope everybody else likes them too.
I do get that. I really, really do. And yeah, Peter Jackson can make some great looking movies. But if I am looking at the clock as many times as I looked at the clock for this movie, it's not a good sign. You should be able to pace it better, or at least not have so much of it so that I don't have to.
When you're creating your own intermissions, it's a too long.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, and yeah, in my defense, I'd already watched 2 other King Kong movies,
Yeah.
3 other King Kong movies. So
No, this is my first one, and I was still bored.
Yeah, that one. I wasn't bored so much as like we're spending way too long in these scenes.
The dinosaur chase scene, way too fucking long.
And I, and I
mean,
get,
I know what he's trying to accomplish.
yeah, he's really trying to give you a sense of their worlds.
Yeah.
Like, he's just trying to establish character in that first act.
Yeah.
He's really trying to let you know who all these people are, and in the most well-rounded way he can.
Yeah.
And he dots all the I's and crosses all the T's when he does it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with the island, he's trying to show that this is a live island. It has life on it and lots of it. It's the closest we got to that was in the 76 when they said, I hope you brought the mosquito spray.
Yeah. Well, I get that.
They
but when
show you the mosquitoes.
you can do maybe a rule of like a couple of times where they're in peril, but once you hit the fourth new species they're in peril by, I'm starting to get a little fucking irritated.
Yeah, it's 3 movies.
Yeah.
It is 3.
You know
movies
what?
there.
You could make a good. What would be a good movie for this is you ditch everything at the beginning, just establish it's just a crew going there, and have the entire movie just the island and end it there. That's like just under 2 hours. It's a good movie if you just have it like that, and it's about the island.
Yeah. Or like I said, didn't even mind the number of scenes. It's just they were all really long.
Yeah, they're all really long.
That's the problem is they didn't need to be as long as they were.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that dinosaur chase scene was good 10 minutes.
And
Yeah.
why 3 T-Rexes? Because they don't hunt in packs. They don't. They just don't.
They just happen to be around each other. Because there was one that wasn't overly motivated because he already had food in his mouth. He was chasing.
Yeah, that's no
Andaro,
point.
And then he finally kind of goes off, and then there's another one there that attacks, and this attracts Kong, and that
He fights that one
That
and
first
another one.
T-Rex winds up finishing off his lunch, and they come in, and then a third one comes in. I'm like, not 1, not 2, but 3 T-Rexes. And then it kind of culminates into the final battle between the 2 T-Rex, the 1 T-Rex and King Kong, that is more of an homage piece to the original film. But once you've had 3 T-Rexes, Kong fighting 3 T-Rexes, and then you just go down to 1 just to get that iconic jaw-popping scene,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel all that climactic anymore because he just fought 3. And don't get me started on the whole Vine thing.
Oh,
I'm like,
it's
just
ridiculous.
Comedic.
And,
Yes.
And then, but when you look at the original one, which I saw this morning, that him fighting a T-Rex scene, it's not a short scene, but everything's in there. And I was really enraptured by it. It was intense and it was great because there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of fight. There's a lot of vibrancy to this whole stop motion animation thing. That pleased me very much.
And that T-Rex scene in the original film, that was the debut of Ray Harryhausen. That was his bit.
It was wonderful.
It was wonderful.
There
Probably
was-
one of the strongest points in the whole film, actually.
There were times I thought that it kind of looked like Abominable from Rudolph the Red-Nosed
True.
Reindeer, but Rankin Bass was involved in I think the second production. I'm not even sure. They might have
Maybe.
even been partially involved in the first one. So Rankin Bass, they were actually, I think, under contract to do the third one that was going to be with Tarzan. So
Yeah, but yeah, it's. I think that one, the original one, kicks the one that Peter Jackson did its ass. It kicks its ass
yeah.
because it, like you say, it's one. It makes sense, and it doesn't have that anticlimactic ending.
Yeah, you just don't need all that. I mean, the Vine scene's fun, but it's pointless. It doesn't need to be there. That's a lot of money that's just kind of sitting there on screen.
And you already
for-
used the vines with the tree, with the guys, the vines kind of saving the guys from that tree falling down that big gorge.
Yeah, the Vines come and play quite a bit in Peter Jackson's, actually,
Yeah.
because they do, and then they do the homage scene again with Kong pulling the Vine up as they're
Yeah.
trying to escape.
Yeah.
When Driscoll finally rescues Anne.
If I hadn't seen the first 2, the third one wouldn't have been as painful, but I don't even say painful, but just wouldn't have felt as long. But having seen 2 other ones prior to it, it just felt really long, especially knowing how concise the other stories were.
Yeah. See, this is what I think. Like, it's just, this is what I'm hoping the new Kong Skull Island thing is. It's like at the island. It's about the island. Kong is part of the island, and he's the sort of the major creature they're focusing on, but it's the island. I think that's where most of your story is.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's what they're going to do is establish the monsters on the island, and I don't think it's not going to look like Peter Jackson's where you have. I mean, they'll probably have the dinosaurs and stuff, but I think they're going to show actual other kaiju on this island. to
Yeah.
round out their monsterverse a little bit and create some new stuff.
Because I think part of what the whole thing is, why this thing has lasted so long, part of it is that mystery, that wonder that there's maybe a part of the world where time stopped.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, there's so many opportunities there. I mean, they reference these giant monsters, especially in the original. That huge freaking snake that he fights, the huge
Yes.
freaking spider. So everything's massive on this island, right? So there's a lot of opportunity there for other massive creatures,
Oh, yeah.
right? Right, because in the original, was it a triceratops or was it just a giant iguana? I can't even remember now.
Original well, you start off with a stegosaurus.
Stegosaurus, that's
In
what it
Peter
was.
Jackson's, it's a sort of triceratops. It's not completely, it's a different kind.
Yeah,
It
and they
looks like a
have-
different species of
And they
triceratops.
have kind of those iguana lizards too, as they're trying to chase her into that barrel, and then the T-Rex eats that one, right?
Yeah,
there's
and
a
then,
couple of them.
And then there's an iguana at that scene with the tree where Kong has just destroyed everybody. In the original, he goes down the vines and he's like hiding in that little hidey hole, and Kong's trying to grab him. There's an iguana that comes up, and Jack/John saves himself by cutting off that vine so that iguana falls to its death. So it shows it very briefly, but it does happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I knew there was an iguana in there somewhere. So, and the problem with watching three of these movies is sometimes they start to meld together. I was telling Jay over on Friday when I was watching the Peter Jackson version and he was watching the 76 version, is I thought the 76 version was the one that I remembered, right? But all the iconic scenes that I remember were from the 1933 movie.
But I was putting a running tally of what's in each movie and what's in all movies.
Good, you're going to have to keep me and Sam sorted, even
there
though
was-
I have notes.
Because there were some of them where it's 2005 and 1976 have the same thing, or 2005 and 1933 have the same thing, but 1976 doesn't. They've kept and ditched different things.
The only thing I remember being from all of them, aside from the characters, is the log scene. That's the only one that I remember.
That's in all of them. Yeah, I wrote that down. It's in all of them.
It's the only one that I remember that I recognize as being in all of them, and of course the scene at the top of the tower, which isn't the Empire State Building in the 76. It
No.
doesn't count.
I barely I was sure I'd seen the 76, but I barely remembered anything from it when I was watching it. Man, it was a very different watch, because I was starting to wonder. I'm like, oh man, they're really starting this off differently, and it takes a while until they get to the island. It's a very different movie.
It is a very different movie, and one of my beefs with it is the fact they turned it into a commentary.
Yeah, it was very much was driven by the gas crisis at the time, and horror does this a lot, makes social commentary. I didn't think it worked with King Kong.
No, it didn't, 'cause
it just comes off really crass and gaudy.
It's true, but I mean,
But I
I
think that
think
was
I
part
think
of it.
for
Yeah.
part of it's that part of that. But I think for that time frame, why would they go to the island? If you're setting it in 1976, nobody's going to come up, oh, wow, I came across this mysterious map. Let's go there. It seems silly. People are like, oh, you're an idiot. What do you, this is fucking bullshit. They're not going to go unless there's something there that they think they can get.
And that's true. I mean, because 33 was set in 33, and then when Peter Jackson did it, he kept it in that time period.
Yeah.
And that's why that makes sense.
And that's why that makes sense. But 76 was contemporary for 1976, so they needed to make it socially relevant. And let's face it,
Nobody's going just randomly exploring.
Yeah,
They're going to
and-
go there exploring
but,
if they get something out of it.
Indiana Jones hadn't happened yet, so it wasn't an archaeological thing. The wildlife photography, I don't know if that was something anybody gave a shit about, because
No.
it wasn't. It was all very new in 33, but it's on public access
Well, it's-
television in 76.
It's
Yeah.
wildlife photography, and it's also the idea that there's a part of the world that hasn't been mapped yet. And that was sort of, I think people really didn't want to believe that.
Yeah.
So they had to kind of put this whole thing in where it was like, oh, we may have discovered something, but we got to go there.
Yeah, it's funny that watch 76, that it feels like it cuts more corners to stay cheap than
Yep.
than the 33 does, even though it was a far more expensive movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the 76 version was partly due to the cast. I mean, you had...
Yeah. Well, you know what? Let me run that trailer, even though we haven't talked about the original. I think we're just going to jump around because this is...
There's 3 whole movies.
There's 3 whole movies. We're going to jump around. So I'm going to run the 76. We'll talk a little bit more, and then I'll run the 2005 wherever it feels like it fits.
It is 1976. The American merchant
merchant vessel Petrox Explorer has just set sail from the port of Surabaya in search of oil. What they find will shock the world.
We may be sailing into the history books.
She's alive!
You know, maybe my luck has changed.
They will discover an uncharted island that is the home of the most incredible creature on the face of the earth. A creature called Kong. Dino De Laurentiis presents the most exciting original motion picture event of all time. King Kong. King Kong, a fantastic adventure. King Kong. King Kong, unlike anything you've ever experienced before. With Jeff Bridges, Charles Grodin, and introducing Jessica Lange as the beauty who charmed the beast. And starring the eighth wonder of the world, King Kong.
All right, we're back. King Kong 1976, directed by John Guillermin, who directed The Towering Inferno. Screenplay was by Lorenzo Semple Jr., who you might remember from episode 29, Flash Gordon, and episode 34, Never Say Never Again. He's become an all-star.
Nice.
Yes, he is.
We have another all-star. We've got to start compiling these.
Yeah, that's right. If anybody's paying attention, just start making a list. So, yeah, Lorenzo Semple Jr., screenplay all-star for Invasion of the Remake.
Have our own award ceremony.
Yeah.
The Invades.
This one was budgeted at $24 million and grossed $80 million worldwide. So it was a pretty good success. Modest success, anyway.
Well, yeah, I think people were waiting for it for so long. That's why they went and saw it.
Okay, starring Jeff Bridges, Charles Grodin, Jessica Lange, John Randolph, Renee Auberjonois.
Auberjonois?
Thanks.
You're welcome.
He might remember him as Odo from Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
He was so young in this. Like, he hadn't even got that more gravelly kind of lyrical voice that he had. He kind of has this very identifiable voice, and it just wasn't there yet.
No.
It was so weird.
So young.
Jack O'Halloran as well, and Peter Cullen, Optimus Prime, was the voice of King Kong.
Nice.
I'm not sure why.
Yeah.
Like that anybody could have done that, but yeah, it was Peter Cullen, so that was kind of cool.
Well, you got to have somebody do something, I guess.
Yeah, I would have been even cooler if he'd been the guy in the suit. But
Yes.
Yeah,
That you could tell was a guy in a suit.
I know.
All too often.
yeah, unfortunately, they didn't even try to make him walk gorilla-like. It just kind of sauntering around, and the mask itself has got a lot of mechanical motion, so it actually looks fairly decent for the most part, although I don't know why they didn't just lend it to Toho when they tried to do theirs, but I think that was in between these movies, actually, wasn't it?
I think we're still looking at that whole rights issue schmozzle.
Yeah, Toho did wound up doing 2 movies before they realized that they were given the rights when they were kind of in contest between RKO and his estates and all
Universal.
that nonsense and whatnot. So but despite the fact that their King Kong versus Godzilla was their most profitable film, so they would, if that would have been ironed out, they would have been a shit ton of King Kong movies. Although they wound up giving him electrical powers, that was really weird.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be a Japanese movie. They're going to take it a different way.
Yeah, well, they wanted to mess with theirs and really show him as a powerhouse. Now,
Although in this movie, they do show him going up against a power grid, and he's not happy. It's in New York, so they don't
true.
give him electrical powers, but they do
No.
try to electrocute him.
now, actually, you know what? It's generally agreed upon that King Kong's about 50 feet tall, but Peter Jackson says his is 25. So
I don't buy
Peter's
that.
actually smaller. They actually say it within the body of the film.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, when they're looking at the footprints.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, and then we're talking about there's Peter Jackson's is more of a general, like an actual ape type look, whereas, and they talked about this when I was doing sort of my back checking, is in the original they'd taken away what most gorillas have is that like big paunch they have in the front, and to be more over like using their front legs as well. So I think that was the 1933 and the 1976 both kind of got rid of that because it's not an herbivore paunch that these gorillas have. So I think it's an attempt to anthropomorphize them.
Yeah, no, I think you're correct on that, to make them look more like a bodybuilder.
Yeah, like more human in order to get that empathy, whereas Peter Jackson got that empathy without reverting to that. So,
Speaking of empathy on that scene, the scene where Anne is making him laugh, where she's doing the dancing and the falling down, one of my favorite scenes in that whole movie. I just loved it, especially when he knocks a stick out and she falls over and he's laughing. I love that bit. Like I said, I don't care what else you cut out of that movie. You've got to keep that in, because that was the first scene where you sort of establish a relationship where he's more than just a monkey.
oh yeah,
Yeah, well, when she chides him after he keeps knocking her down,
Yeah.
and it's just winning her every time.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because he
And,
doesn't know his own strength. He's a giant.
Yeah,
ape.
and he gets yelled at, and he doesn't like it.
He doesn't like it.
He spazzes out and then runs off.
Yeah, it's awesome. He behaves just like a man.
Yeah. But what's funny is when she sort of keys in that he likes the falling down when he knocks the stick out, and she's like, "Oh, that's what he's laughing." Because she tries a few other things. She tries dancing. She tries juggling. He doesn't like those things.
Yeah. Although the only thing more entertaining than her falling down is the sunset.
Yeah.
He never misses that, which I thought was really sweet.
Oh no, there's a certain romanticism to the Jackson film that is missing from the other two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think maybe he also kind of used to watch it with his mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 76 feels like a softcore porn movie, even though they never go in that territory. Jessica Lange really plays up the sexuality. There's a particular scene in the 76 that I just, wow, what the hell, where he kind of brushes off her clothing, dips her,
Yes.
kind of throws her, holds her under a waterfall, and then dunks her into.
Well, no, he drops her in.
Drops her
He
in.
doesn't dunk her. He's nice. Then he lifts her out because he's kind
and then he dries her off by blowing on her.
which is weird because I don't
And
get that
she
bit.
has like the most orgasmic reaction to it.
But when you think about this, the 1933 one, there's a whole scene, and I have the uncut one, where Kong is taking off her clothes, and at one point he sniffs his fingers.
No, that's right, he did. Okay, this was established in 33.
Yeah,
Okay.
that perversion was in the original. Just putting that there.
Yeah. Well, I think in the 1933 one is because they reference back to that later in the film when he has her smell, right? Like he was identifying her particular
saying-
odor, right?
Yeah.
True, but like he's taking off all her clothes in 33. He's ripping off bits.
I just equated it as peeling a banana. I'm like, uh-oh, you're getting eaten.
No, but you're right. Especially the 76 was certainly very suggestive.
Yeah.
And I mean, it had the shower scene, and I mean, the relationship between Jack and Anne was or Dawn or Dwan.
Dwan.
It's Dwan.
Yeah. I'm going to call her Anne because that's the...
Yeah, everybody's actually got different names in there. It's Jeff Bridges, Jack Prescott, Charles Grodin is Fred Wilson. But the archetypes are the same.
Oh, yeah.
So they're similar. Charles Grodin, he's a greedy oil tycoon during the oil crisis, and he needs kind of a big windfall to compete with the big boys. They even drop the names Shell and Exxon during this. Is he the CEO, or he works for a big company called
works
Petrox?
for them, I think, yeah.
And he's got a lot of stock options, so he's very invested in this discovery.
Yeah, he's probably one of the people who's doing that sort of searching for new sources.
Yeah.
Which is why this whole thing comes about.
He's got this lead on this island that's been untapped and undiscovered, Jeff Bridges is an animal rights activist. So this is where all the social commentary.
Primatologist.
He's a primatologist. Dwan's just an actress floating on the ocean.
Yeah, she's on a yacht that sank just fortuitously so close to this oil tanker.
Yes, because she was saved by Deep Throat. I'll just let that sit in for a moment. She was saved because everybody was below deck watching Deep Throat.
And she didn't want to watch it, so she was on the deck, and that's why she survived.
She was saved by Deep Throat.
Yeah.
And not the All the President's Men Deep Throat.
No,
I'm pretty sure I know. In the 70s, we know what Deep Throat this one is.
Yeah. But yeah, like, I don't know, Jeff Bridges is sort of that one character where he's got everything. Like, he's has knowledge about apes, but apparently also has knowledge about ancient tribes, and also has knowledge, like medical knowledge. Previously, he was going into medicine. Like, he's sort of got everything going.
I have a theory. After this movie, because of all the terrible things that happened, and Anne just leads him on most of the time, but he seems to go for it regardless. And then all this stuff that happens with the ape and him really against all that. I have this theory that it kind of wrecked him, and he wound up sitting at home smoking a lot of dope.
Yes,
because he already looked like the dude.
Yes. Yep. But I have to say, what's weird is I'm watching...
This was the dude before everything went wrong.
I'm watching young Jeff Bridges, and young Jeff Bridges kind of does it for me. It's weird, because it's sort of... And you can see how, like, when he's doing the actiony stuff, how he lumbers around like he does now. Like, he's never really changed his physicality. Mm-hmm. It's so interesting to watch. I'm like, but yeah, like, when he was young, he moved the same way.
Yeah, he really did.
It's really quite cool. But the fact that he's I don't know, I liked him as a character. I thought he was great. I loved young Jeff Bridges.
Especially back then, there was something very likable even in some of the worst movies that he did. I just really liked watching Jeff Bridges back then. I still like watching Jeff Bridges. I shouldn't say back then, because he's still awesome. He's getting Oscar nod after Oscar nod now. So
yeah, he's just getting, his craft is getting better and better.
Yeah,
and the poor guy, he genuinely cared about Kong. He was like, "I will tell you where he's going if
he snuck onto this boat as one of the shipmates, and
really smartly.
Wearing one of the t-shirts from Petrox, I think.
Yep.
So
it was easy. He knew how to do it.
Yeah, he was stained, and he just bribes his way in.
He pretended to be drunk.
Pretended to be drunk. And pretended to drop money.
That was a lot of money too. That guard guy really got a nice windfall.
Yeah, but he that's what he knew. He knew if he dropped money, this guy's not going to bring it to attention.
Well, don't forget, they're not in America either. They're Malaysia or something like that. So,
it's true.
So there's probably a wad of local money that's probably not worth anywhere near as much as American dollars.
They looked American.
It did look American. But
I think it probably was American dollars, which is again why this guard is not going to draw attention. That he just
that's
let
what I was going to say. It's probably a stack of ones wrapped around a 20 or something like that. It looked like more than it was. But
this guard's not going to draw attention to it, so that's obviously the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Smart.
And initially, when he's discovered, they're going to press charges and as a stowaway and just lock him,
because they believe that he's a spy for another petroleum company.
Yeah, but he's the one who first spots the floating boat, and they realize like, okay, he's not a bad guy. Let's make him the photographer for this
and medic because he was in med school. Then he switched to primate studies.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. So he's kind of given a position. There seems to be more and more of a partnership going on as the movie goes along,
and I think that's through the sheer force of personality of Jack. I mean, because he's a force, like, and I think that's what he was supposed to be. Is he's got this? He's the moral code of this movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And people do want to, like, he doesn't give up.
Yeah.
When they're talking about, oh well, let's camp or do anything, like he logically knows what he wants to get done.
Yeah. And nothing will stop him from getting it done. And that's made it apparent right at the beginning of the movie when he sneaks his way into the ship.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they've already established that he's a guy who will do whatever he needs to get what he wants, or to do what he wants to do.
Yeah, because like he at one point too, he was just going to steal a boat and go to shore to do what he was going to do.
Yeah.
Before Dwan convinces him otherwise. And then you get into the part where she's kidnapped, the kidnapping in all of the movies. And the necklace left behind, all of the movies.
Yeah. The natives always, when they first land on there, the natives discover their existence. They see Dwan/Anne in all of these movies, when they leave the island, the natives come to collect her, and they always drop the necklace as kind of the proof that they were there. And that is always the driving force of the hero character to go motivate the rest of the crew to go rescue Anne/Dwan.
Yes.
In the original, you have that whole ceremony where they're about to sacrifice a bride to Kong. You have it in the original in 1976, but not in 2005.
Yep. Yeah, that's right.
That's
the
right.
whole village in 2005 was just...
They were going to kill her.
That's a scary cannibal tribe. That is a very hostile native island.
Yeah, but look at their life. This is just what they're doing.
They're living on the rocks outside this wall to protect themselves from the rest of the island.
Yeah.
Right? They're probably living off fish and nothing else, and probably raw fish because they don't even have access.
Well,
to wood,
they obviously were. I mean, they were skewering bodies because there were some bodies on poles.
Yeah,
skeletons on poles. So they were probably at least cannibalizing. I wouldn't say visitors to the island, although if that happened, that probably was going on too. But probably criminals of the tribe as well, whatever their code was.
Just to get some variation in their diet.
They really, Peter Jackson just kind of makes that whole tribe really monstrous.
Exactly.
Including the children.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I was going to say something about Peter Jackson's tribe. I stayed away from the stereotypical tribal thing too. Like he said it in a different part of the world where they would not be of African descent. They're more of that Malaysian Asian descent, but they still looked like they were white with
blackface.
Yeah.
I thought it felt a little mixed because it felt like when I was looking at them, I'm like, okay, well, that guy looks Indian, that guy looks African, so
and that looks like a really tan white person, and
so I
really
think they were getting is what they could to fill out because that was a very big tribe.
Yeah, but like you can't find that in 2005.
Sometimes when you're doing
For
a
your
casting call,
casting?
and depending on where they were shooting, because I never got to research where they were shooting. I mean, sometimes you're casting an entire town of people just to fill out the crowd.
Yeah.
So.
That's true. Now, one of the other thing that was different with the ceremony, you're right. But what I really liked about the first movie, the 1933 version, when they were doing the whole ritual and they were tying up Anne, right? They had those levers and they were using them to hold her thing.
Yeah.
And Kong knew to undo them to take her away. Mm-hmm. Which I thought was great because again, it kind of anthropomorphic.
Well,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, but I mean, she gets out of them. She gets out of both things because I did write this down because I had a problem with all the movies where I thought if he just pulls her off, he's dislocating both of her arms or ripping them off.
In the first one, Kong loosened those ropes.
Yeah, but she gets out of them.
After
she removes everything.
Well, they've been loosened.
Yeah.
They've been pulled free from what was holding them taut.
Yeah, because the bands went around the poles, so they were tightened by that motion, right? So we loosened them because her arms were up against the pole in the first one. Because I was watching for that because I was thinking the exact same thing. He's just going to rip her freaking arms off, right? But that's
all the other movies that bothered me.
Yeah, but in the original movie, there was that scene where he used his finger to loosen the rope so he wouldn't do that. Right, because I was watching for it. It was how is he going to take this away without tearing her arms out? And that was how they did it. He actually had done it enough times that he knew to loosen that rod.
Yeah, because in the Peter Jackson one, I'm pretty sure he dislocated her arms.
Oh yeah, right. Because she just tied to vines or whatever, right?
Yep, and they're not coming apart.
Mm-hmm. No.
And should be armless. That's what should happen. That should be the new one. Anne's armless.
Yeah,
and she's dead because she bled out.
In the 76, didn't he break the vine first? On the one hand,
on the one arm, but the other arm it wasn't.
Maybe he was just accidentally breaking all of his brides, and that was why there was just the pit of bodies there.
Maybe that's it. He was like, "Oh wait, no!" Like that was the learning curve.
Be more gentle.
And in the Peter Jackson version, he's really throwing her around. Like when he's running, he's got her in his hand. I'm like, she'd be dead. I'm sorry, but she would have been.
Yeah, the whiplash alone would have killed her.
Right, and you know what? Maybe he was breaking all of his brides, and that was he's getting them back to the sunset and everything like that. And he gets there, and they're breathing
dead.
anymore.
Yeah,
because he does look at her. He's trying to nudge her. He's like, and then he kind of looks sad, like another one.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that maybe was what I was also kind of suggesting is that he wasn't deliberately harming them, but.
Well, this made me think of when I was a little kid and I had Barbies. Like, think of that. Tiny child with a Barbie. You're not being gentle as you're running around with your Barbie.
I mean, there are things you care about and things you don't. And we see this in all the movies, like, especially with the threats. But, you know, when he's looking for Anne/Dwan in the city, if he comes across...
if it's the wrong one.
If it's the wrong one, just tosses them aside.
Yeah.
And they're catching 50 feet of air. They're dead when they hit the ground.
Well, in the very original one, there's a woman a number of stories up, and Kong reaches through. She's in her bed.
Wrong one. Toss her out the window.
No, he just drops her at least 20 stories.
Yeah.
Yep, not mine.
Yep.
Didn't put her back, just dropped her.
Yep.
So...
But that's a child with a toy.
Yeah. This isn't mine.
Yeah, this isn't my Barbie.
Yeah.
Yep. No, and yeah, you did see that in all the movies, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's a sympathetic monster, but he's still a monster. Like, it's not... He's not malicious. It's just, you know, his animal instincts. That's not what he was looking for. So, not thinking about the consequences of dropping something, you know, something living. It's
Yeah, but speaking of consequences, these guys bring him in and like, oh yeah, no, everything will be fine if we have this giant ape here.
Yeah.
Like, this is what
yeah.
is my biggest problem with the end line. That hackneyed fucking end line that still bothers me. I know it's supposed to be a great line, but it's fucking stupid.
It was Beauty that killed the beast.
No, it was you and your asshat friends bringing him back so he could get shot off a fucking building, you dipshit. Beauty did nothing. Beauty was fine. You guys fucked up.
Yeah, it was greed that killed the beast.
Yeah, it's totally greed that killed the beast.
Twas a ton of
In
fuck
every
nuts
movie.
that killed a beast.
Yeah.
That should be the new line. Twas a ton of fuck nuts killed this beast.
Yeah, because, I mean, Beauty's what motivated him to escape and run rampant, but it was them bringing him out of his habitat that killed the beast.
Yeah, they should just,
what else
rescued
was
her
ever
and
going to
left
happen?
left him be, right?
Yeah.
But, I mean, then you wouldn't have a movie.
Yeah, 76 was kind of awkward because it wasn't the Empire State Building; it was the Twin Towers,
Yes.
the World Trade Center.
And that was, yeah.
kind of weird seeing.
Wish they explode part of one of the top bit.
Oh, you got airplanes and,
Yeah.
and
Helicopters in the 76.
Helicopters, yeah, it was
all helicopters in 76.
It's helicopters in 76, but it's kind of weird. It's a different kind of meta message when you're watching it now, post 9/11.
Yeah.
But when you think about the whole idea where it was like this corporate guy going to the island, it wasn't about finding a big ape. It wasn't about making a movie.
Yeah.
It was a corporate guy going to a big island. Thematically and story-wise, the Twin Towers makes more sense.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, when you're thinking the corporate themes of the film, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That could be why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
They were now the new tallest structures in the city.
Oh, true,
Yeah.
true.
In
That- I was gonna
33,
say-
it was Empire State.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. That was really why they used them, and I like the way that they tied them together. Like there was the twin rocks on the
that was
island.
really good.
And that's how Jack was able to sort of make that correlation. It's like, I know where he's going because that's going to be what reminds him of home. And there were lots of parts about 76 I really liked. Most of them were Jack's parts, right?
There were a couple of things that they did borrow from 76 into Jackson's.
Yes.
With, they just called them gas bombs in the first movie,
Yeah.
and then it was the chloroform in the second, and they kept the chloroform for the third film. So
yeah, and there were a few nods to the 76 version, but for the most part, Jackson was more true to the original.
yeah, I don't know where they found a cloth that big though.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's
I don't know, way to
weird.
apply it.
Well, it's funny. In Peter Jackson ones, they're just throwing bottles of chloroform at him.
Yeah,
In 1933's, he's
at least they
engineered
got
gas
him
bombs.
in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah, in 1933, the guy engineered gas bombs. The technology in the 1933 one is far superior than Peter Jackson's 2005 one. Just putting that out there.
Well, in the original, Carl had heard something about a giant ape. He was planning to go and find a giant ape. It's the only movie where he was planning to go find something like that.
Yeah,
Right? In the 76 version, we know they were going to find oil, and the giant ape was a fortuitous accident, or
Well,
an
it was-
unfortunate accident, depending on on your point of view.
Well, the ape became the new target because they found out that what was on the island wasn't good quality oil at all.
No, it needed to steep for a few more years. Was it 10,000?
Another
years,
10 million.
yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, you can find an oil reserve, but if it's not an oil you can do anything with, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can't do anything
Well,
with
back
it.
in 1933, when they did the original film, it was a big success. About 6 months later, they shot Son of Kong. And this is a much smaller, younger Kong. He's like about 12 feet. He's really adorable.
Oh, that would be so sweet.
and it's Carl that goes back to the island. Initially, he's just fleeing the States from indictment.
Oh, of course, as you would.
And he's definitely has some...
You've just wrecked New York. Good luck.
He's got a lot of regrets, obviously, about what he's done. And there's a whole movie's about him kind of making amends. And unfortunately, the whole island sinks, and young Kong dies saving Carl. But Carl learns a very valuable lesson during that film. So,
well, it makes me wonder, too, with... when they talk about bringing Kong out of his habitat and taking him away, like what that did to that ecosystem of that particular island.
Well, you think about it, you took the natives' gods away, and that was actually when they go back to the island in Son of Kong. There are the natives there to greet them, and they're like, "Get the fuck out of here! You took our god." They're chasing them off the island.
Yeah, because the other apex predators, they don't have anybody who can go against them anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's what happens when you take away Kong. Like, how much chaos would that create?
How big is this small island, by the way? When you have things this big, like, how does the ecosystem even survive more than a few months?
Well, what makes me wonder about it is, like, I think I was reading something, I don't know how true it is, when they're talking about how at a certain point in the Earth's history, there was just a lot of plant life and a lot of oxygen. If we were alive, it'd be too much oxygen for us. But at that point in time, because they were such large creatures, it was fine for them. So I'm wondering if this isn't like a super oxygenated environment. There shouldn't be natives there.
Well, and that's where 76 just kind of touches base on that with the cloud that doesn't move, right? With the fog bank that doesn't move. So something is different about the air there.
Yeah.
Right? So I like that, and I like where you're going with that, because that's...
I thought they just did that so they didn't have to do even a matte painting. But that makes a certain kind of sense, actually.
And why it would remain hidden for so long.
Yes. Yeah.
Because they had the photographs from like 50 years apart. I think the first set of photographs was from 1933. I think they kind of threw that back.
Oh yeah.
And then from 2 months ago or whatever it was, and look, it hasn't changed. It's still there. It's still sitting in the same spot, and it looks almost identical.
Yeah, and what they could have had is like not just Jeff Bridges looking for animals. What would have been really interesting if he had been some sort of like climatologist or somebody who's like going, this is really not normal. And I'm very curious, like, geologically, what's happening here.
Yeah.
He could have been the geologist that the guy had hired, and he's just tagging along because he's curious.
Yeah, I mean, there could have been some things to make 76 better, but that's a different episode.
Oh, true. No, I'm just saying is like, but that
really
could be why.
Detail, we need to do 3 of these.
Yes.
Yeah, but that could be why. But I think it's because it's just the island itself is different, and that's why time stopped there. Because these dinosaurs should be extinct.
Well, depending on where it is, and because there was parts of the southern hemisphere that were not affected by the ice age, right? It would have been. We make an assumption that this would have been in part of that.
Well, Sumatra, around Sumatra, was where they said.
Yeah, because I think all 3 of them leave from Sumatra, except for actually no, Peter Jackson's leaves from New York, doesn't it?
Yeah, but they are going that sort of way.
Yes.
Which, okay, there's one major point. Sorry, this is probably a complete aside, but I had to say it. In Peter Jackson's, I just have to tell Peter Jackson, if a chef is a chef on a boat, eventually they will take off that apron. They won't have it on the entire time they're in a search party for a young blonde woman. They won't have it on the entire time they're tromping through the jungle. They just won't.
Is that lumpy?
Yeah, we know it's the cook. You don't need to leave his fucking apron on the whole goddamn movie. Sorry, I had to get that out there. That pissed me off the whole time. I was so mad.
I really liked Andy Serkis.
Oh, I love him dearly.
He was so good. He's such a great character actor, and he was so different in that part than other parts I've seen him in. And
see, and you knew who he was.
He's a tough guy.
We could recognize him without an apron, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And hey, it's Andy Serkis. We also know he's Kong.
True.
Because if there's a CGI character, he's playing it.
Yeah, especially if it has Peter Jackson has anything to do with it.
Yeah, no, I loved him in this movie. I just want that apron fucking off.
Well, that sounded like a good setup. Let's do the trailer for the third one and keep going.
Woohoo.
And lo, the beast looked upon the face of beauty, and beauty stayed his hand. And from that day forward, he was as one dead.
So you are ready for this voyage, Miss Darrow?
Sure.
Nervous?
Nervous? No. Should I be?
Imagine, if you will, an uncharted island, thought to exist only in myth.
Wall! There's a wall ahead!
That's where I'll shoot my picture. It's deserted. Of course it's deserted. The place is a ruin.
They're taking in! Find her!
You saw something. What took her, Carl?
If you haven't found her in 24 hours, there'll be nothing left to find.
Okay, King Kong, 2005, directed and screenplay by Peter Jackson. Screenplay was also written by his wife, Fran Walsh, and Philippa Boyens. Budgeted at $207 million.
Easily.
Grossed $547 and change million worldwide. So I'd say it's a moderate success given, you know, when you talk in modern movies, you're taking your budget and doubling it for advertising and all that. Successful, but not on paper. It's probably was a break even, and by Peter Jackson standards, it was a bit of a bomb, I would think.
Oh, it was,
compared to all the Lord of the Rings movies.
I mean, I remember when this movie was when they first started advertising it, and I'm like, I didn't even know they were making it to start with, because it kind of slid under the radar for me. And when I found out, I wasn't interested. I already had two classics that I remembered very fondly, even though my memory of the 76th wasn't as great as I thought it was. I didn't want to see a King Kong remake. I didn't. Right.
I know at the time I was very excited, especially given what he'd just done over the last 10 years of Lord of the Rings. I was really like, oh, big budget King Kong with modern effects. I was all for it until you sit through the 3+ hours.
See, and that was the other reason too is like I'm not as enthralled with the Lord of the Rings movies as a lot of other people. I found
me either.
I found them overbloated.
Send your hate mail to invasiontheremake@gmail.com and address it to Sam.
Yeah, no,
Trish.
I'm not saying I didn't like them, but I'm not as enthralled by them as so many other people are, because when you try to rewatch them, the first time I saw them, I'm like, wow, these were so good. But if you try to rewatch those movies, they really do get kind of tedious after a while, because there's very little action and a lot of
We're walking.
Yeah,
we're
moving from
walking.
place to place. So, and that's kind of how Kong
Yeah.
felt to me too. So I already had this sort of preconceived notion in my mind that that's what Kong was going to kind of feel like, and I was right.
You are correct.
Yeah, it's true. He spares no expense to give you some of the smallest things just to establish everything. I mean,
Rather
it's
than
so much money.
rather than continuously running into orcs, it's just another creature on this island. That's what it is.
It's not just there, though, but because you're recreating 1933 New York, and they do it beautifully.
Oh, they do it absolutely beautifully.
Oh, I don't have a problem with
it's
that.
great. The cars, the buildings, and the buildings that aren't there yet. And, they do a really splendid job of making 1933 New York look like 1933 New York. It is so beautiful. And then, of course, all the life on the island, and there is a lot of money and a lot of time to get into the minutiae of the detail of this film.
And I know it, I love the look of it. Like, don't get me wrong. I think Peter Jackson's a phenomenal visual artist. I think that films give him too much, or studios give him too much leeway, because he does tend to get a little self-indulgent.
I think what they have to start doing is, if they give him a movie, just give him a miniseries.
Yeah.
Because then there'll be in manageable chunks and he can get what he wants to get done. But yeah, you can't. I'm sorry. If he's going to be delivering 3 hours, stop giving him movies.
Well, I mean, the majority of people were willing to endure all that on the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings movies, and thankfully he didn't realize he could probably make a trilogy out of each Lord of the Rings book, so otherwise we'd still be watching them. But
everybody who was in everybody who was in Lord of the Rings would have been too old to finish Lord of the Rings.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. But when you look at that, those made a lot of bank. King Kong didn't. Would a studio allow him to do this on something else? Yeah, again, because King Kong, it made good money, but on paper it wasn't great. It's kind of a break-even movie. So would they give him that indulgent outside of The Hobbit? I don't know.
I don't know.
Will he do that again on something else? Because outside of the Hobbit movies and King Kong, which were all 3-hour big movies, was it The Lovely Bones? Was that
I think
the one?
so, yeah.
That was a normal length
good movie.
drama, and was a good movie, and he didn't overindulge on it. So I don't know.
See, that's what irritates me. I know he has it in him to not be overindulgent, and that's what drives me fucking insane.
And I don't mind a 3-hour movie if it makes sense for it to be 3 hours. I just didn't feel that King Kong, with this movie, it made sense for it to be 3 hours, and it certainly doesn't make sense for The Hobbit to be 9. But that's another story entirely.
Oh, it's
9
like
with 15 minutes of dragon.
It's fine. We've covered this multiple times on this show.
I know. Just not going to let it die.
Yeah. Well, I brought it up this time, so.
Yeah, okay, yeah. See, Sam brought it up. Not even me this time.
Okay, you know what? Someday we'll remake Dragon Slayer just so you get dragon.
Yeah,
Thank you.
We should do that movie. Love that movie.
Awesome. I'm down.
Just for Trish.
Just for Trish, yeah.
Well, and Sam, he said he'd like to do it.
I love that movie.
Oh, who doesn't?
Exactly. But we're not talking about that movie today. We're
No, we're talking about King Kong.
King Kong. No, you know what? I don't hate Jackson's version. Not by any means.
No, it's a good movie. It's just, give yourself a break. Thankfully it's DVD and Blu-ray now, so you can make your own breaks. And cause I think I took 2 breaks on that movie.
But like I said, you know what? I could get on board with this movie. I know he did great with New York. That's fine. But I think if he had been limited to having the action on the island, it would have been a tight, complete movie.
But then it wouldn't have been King Kong.
No,
I know it wouldn't have been King Kong, and that would have been fine as well.
Yeah. But I think that, I hate to say it, but he could have done 2 movies out of this.
Yeah, he totally
Easily.
could have. There's definitely 2 movies in here for sure. Yeah. I mean, you could have climaxed maybe with the dinosaurs and then continued from there to give you to the end bit with New York and really split that movie up. But, that's neither here nor there. Then all the footage would have made it in.
Yes.
And you would have had 2 pretty good complete movies there.
Well, or you could have done it where it's the getting everybody together and then they get there, then they find Kong. That's the end of your first movie, and then the sequels where they...
You know, I found I was really engaged in learning about all these characters in the beginning, even though it takes an hour just to get to the island. But
well, true.
When you're meeting...
That's why it's the first movie.
Yeah, when you're meeting Ann Darrow for the first time, and she's a down-on-her-luck actress, and she's working vaudeville, and the place she's working is closing, and she's going to soup kitchens just to eat, because she's passionate about what she does, and then she's just not getting paid, and she's getting really desperate, and here's
her friends are going home, and
here's Carl Denham, who's in Dutch with the studio because he's got reels and reels of nature footage for
and they're pulling the
documentary, and they're going to pull the plug on him. And he is just obsessed with filmmaking. He just wants to make a complete movie. I don't even think he cares to be successful. He just wants something complete and sellable. And he's desperate. He's losing the talents he's had. He's got an award-winning stage writer, which is Jack Driscoll, who's Adrian Brody in this movie. Actually, I haven't done the cast yet. Naomi Watts, Jack Black, Adrian Brody, Jamie Bell, Thomas Kretschmann, who I really like, Colin Hanks, Andy Serkis, Evan Park, Kyle Chandler, and Lobo Chen.
Yeah, no, the cast was amazing. It's like, wow, I forgot that this person was in this. I forgot this person was in this, and I liked that. I will be honest, when I first saw Naomi Watts on screen, I thought she was missing something that the first two actresses had, because both Fay Wray and Jessica Lange had this ethereal look to them.
But she does.
But she brings it.
She brings it.
She does. Totally brings it. Does that doe-eyed, lovesick look really well, and a lot in this movie.
She does, but when I first saw her on the screen, I didn't get that same sense of etherealness, for lack of a better word. But it grew, and you could see her changing. So she brought something completely different to the role.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, they were starting in the original. She's very naive, doesn't know what she's getting into. In this version, Anne is sort of kind of hardened by everything that's happened
because of the depression.
Because of how everything's been going, but she still agrees to it eventually, because she's like, well, running out of options. But then
there's a couple of times she's going to duck out on this guy.
But she recovers that sort of innocence with Jack Driscoll, because that's somebody she's sort of been enamored with because of what he writes, and she appreciates him as an artist.
It's him that she wants to be in a Jack Driscoll play, and it's
that's what gets her on the boat.
That's what gets her. Yeah, that's what gets her to it. And meanwhile, Carl, they're shutting him down. He steals his reels. He
steals a boat.
I'm assuming borrows the equipment as well.
Yeah. Did you see the similarities between the boat captain on this and the first mate from the first one?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of that was moved into Englehorn, who really doesn't have much of a part in the other two versions. Whereas this one, he's the animal trapper. He's a renowned trapper, as well as the boat captain, and in a lot of ways, the last minute hero.
Oh yeah,
often in this movie, except he's manipulable by Carl through either cash or ego. Because many times Englehorn wants to pull the plug on this whole thing, toss Carl off the boat, and
he talks about
take him back and turn him to the authorities.
And every time Carl kind of talks him out of it.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be in these waters trying to fly blind.
Is a good person, but just keeps getting manipulated by Carl.
That's because Carl does it to everybody.
Yeah.
He does it to everybody in this movie.
Well, anytime somebody dies on the island, we're going to finish this movie for Mike.
Oh, yeah. I know.
And we're going to give all the proceeds to his family. And he says that about everybody who dies.
Yes.
And then you have Colin Hanks, who is, for some reason,
He's toady, yeah.
He's toady, but I think he's kind of enamored of Denham. He's going, this guy's just amazing. But it's not until quite at the end he realizes he's like, oh, you're the fucking monster.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see he's been broken. He doesn't really want to work for this guy anymore.
Well, no, he knows who Carl Denham is, too, because he has one of the best lines in the movie right at the beginning of the movie when he says, "You won't like that, there's no alcohol in it."
Yeah, that's true. He knows who he's working for.
He does know who he's working for, but I think he's eager to move forward.
He's never seen him be this reprehensible before.
Yeah, like I think he thinks if it comes down to it, there's a good man inside of Carl Denham, and it's sort of near the end. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, there isn't at all. There's nothing in there."
Carl, for the most part, survives this movie through luck.
Oh yeah,
sheer fucking luck.
Oh, the fucking Brontosaurus stampede.
They created a second extinction. This group of people,
and it's his
there's
fault.
now no more Brontosauruses because of this fucking dickhead.
Carl was a fucking asteroid on this island.
He was. He destroyed everything.
Yeah. They kept making commentary that Kong destroys everything he loves. So does Carl.
Like these there was a lot of Brontosauruses on this island. Now there's none.
Yeah.
The T-Rexes are going to escape and go attack islanders because why? There's no more food. Thanks, Carl.
Yeah, and they opened up the wall.
Yeah, and they totally opened up the wall. And I mean, Carl's a monster in the 76, and I mean, I know he's not called Carl in the 76, but we're going to continue to do that because
you can say Charles Grodin.
Yeah,
Charles Grodin. But yeah, Charles Grodin and Jack Black are the villains.
Although they keep trying to play like Grodin plays the role seriously, but he's always kind of the brunt of a joke, and the joke falls flat.
Yeah,
it's
every time.
True,
yeah.
but
like,
I think
he falls in Kong's foot.
That's Grodin's thing, though.
Yeah, it is, but it falls flat in the 76.
Really
but
does.
it's
every time.
Actually, there's this one scene where he stomped around in his boots. I don't know if either of you saw this, but there's a scene where he's walking down the beach. In his boots. He's got his adventurer's boots on, and
it's hilarious
out loud. Because he's like the way he clomped through, and I'm like, that you could tell it was deliberate because he couldn't bear to give up those adventurer's boots.
Oh, like remember when he's like, I'm getting out of the boat, and he wants Jeff Bridges to take photos of him as he's getting off. I'm like, yeah, there we go. We've just encapsulated that character.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but in the original movie, Carl wasn't really a villain. His intent was misguided, but he wasn't a villain. Not like in the
oh yeah. When it comes down to it, he runs back to the boat. He's the guy who goes and gets everybody else, while Jack/John goes after Anne. Yeah. So he's in the original. His mistake is bringing back the ape.
Yes, and it is a mistake. It's because he's so enamored of it. Is because he wants to share it with the world. It's not because it's money. Yeah. I mean, he turns it into something into a money grab, but really, he just wants the rest of to show the rest of the world Kong because he's so magnificent.
True, but at the end, he killed him, not Beauty. Just saying.
Yeah. And I love how Charles Grodin dies in.
Oh, he's stomped on.
He gets stepped on.
Yeah,
it's the only movie where like that version of the character dies.
Yeah,
which is unfortunate because I think that is a really great karmic way to provide closure to show who to the real monster of the movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like in the Jack Black, like in the original one where Jack Black is just sort of left alone. Kong has escaped and is killing a ton of people, and he gets missed somehow. I would have loved if it would have been just some random thing, like part of the theater falls on him. Well, just something like that.
Or throws a car and hits him or something, right?
It's funny that, even though I think Carl's the villain in Jackson's movie, he's not to Kong, because Kong's really got a hate on for Jack Driscoll.
Oh yeah,
I love it every time, especially in the end scenes.
He's a romantic rival.
When he spots him and just the squint in his eyes, I'm like, ooh, that's hatred. Yeah. That's not just raging on. That is hatred.
See, and that's sort of what I kind of do like, is that this guy is an interloper in the relationship that Kong believes he has with Anne. Like,
Kong does have a relationship with Anne in Jackson's version.
And this guy is a problem. So Kong knows that, which is it's interesting. It really that's the other human element about it. But how Jack takes advantage of that's another thing that's actually kind of interesting. I'd say that's a good part of Jackson.
Now, somebody wanted to bring up when Jack is rescuing Anne at Kong's den. Meanwhile, Carl's convincing Englehorn to, okay, he's going to get Anne and bring us the beast because he's now lost all his footage. So when Jack's kind of quietly crawling up to rescue Anne from his sleeping clutches, and then a lot of craziness ensues with bats and stuff when he wakes him up.
It's not a clutch. He is cradling Anne gently.
No, I whatever. That's not what the point I'm trying to get at. She's sleeping in his palm, but he's going to rescue her. But he's crawling over a skeleton of another ape, and this is really good motivation of kind of Kong's loneliness. He's lost his mate some time ago, and he's probably the last of his kind.
Well, in my research, I think the idea Peter Jackson had is Kong is a few hundred years old. He's not.
Yeah. No,
Not a young ape.
That's not the rotting corpse of another ape. It's a long dead
It's dry
skeleton.
bones.
Yeah, long dead.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I hack on the length of this movie, but Jackson really did try really hard to delve into the core of every character in the movie, including Kong. He wanted to give Kong motivation. He wanted to give him a reason for being the creature that he is. Right. So I mean, there's lots of really great things in this film. It's just trim it a little bit, right? Knock 5 minutes off the dinosaur chase scene.
Yeah.
Knock 5
Trim
minutes
it
off the T-Rex fight scene.
Or King Kong the miniseries. Seriously, King Kong the miniseries would work.
Tightening it up, you can really have a spectacular movie. I mean, it's still a really good spectacle of a film, for sure.
Well, taking out that whole 3 T-Rex with the vines thing cuts down at least 20 minutes.
Yeah. Now, the thing I don't like about Peter Jackson's is the ending. You know, you've got the traditional, let's put him up on display and on the stage. And in the original film, it's not the camera flashes exactly that enrage him. It's the fact that he thinks the cameras are weapons and are attacking Anne.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But Anne's not here at this point.
No, she's not. Because her moral compass won't allow.
When they bring her up, he notices it's not Anne.
Yeah,
he sees the blonde initially, and he's kind of brightens up, and then he sees it's not, and that's starting to piss him off. But it's the flashes that really get him going. So it really kind of changes the escape because she's not there.
Yeah.
She's
well, it would be completely changed if Kong was epileptic too.
Yeah. So that's enraging him, and then Jack's the one that goes to the theater to see her, she's advertised and doesn't show up. She's gone to another gig.
Yeah.
She's morally can't get behind this.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and he's like, Denham's lying. He's like, this is Anne Darrow, and that's why he thinks she's there, because Denham's freaking lying through his teeth again.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And well, he lies about the fact that it was their heroic actor who saved
Bruce
Anne.
Baxter.
Yeah, when really it was Jack. But yeah, no, and I liked the take that Jackson had on the idea that neither Jack nor Anne would be willing to participate in this fiasco or this mess.
Yeah, she's constantly in the original. She compromises her morals for stardom.
Yes.
Well, in both, here's the thing. There's a transition, if you look at it. 1933, both Anne and Jack are participating. 1976, Jack's like, I can't be part of this. Anne's participating. In 2005, both of them leave.
All she talks about is her stardom, so it's not surprising. And then when the ape comes after her and they finally get away, instead of going to hiding, she just wants a drink. I'm like, well, I guess I would too, but maybe not in that moment.
Although in a bar where there's nobody there, free bar.
Yeah, that's true. They didn't lock up before they left.
Yeah, and I mean it was one of those below grade bars too, which was kind of I love that about New York and Chicago.
Yeah.
These little places where you walk down into them,
little holes in the wall.
How do you not notice a giant hand crashing through the door?
Well, yeah, and that
unless they left the door open.
Dwan isn't that bright, guys.
Yeah, she really isn't.
No, they do. I mean, they do it really quietly. I'm like, no.
It's when he pulls back, I think it probably hooks on his hand and destroys everything, and that's when Jack knows that something's wrong.
But I mean, they do that in the original too, when he's reaching into her apartment.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And they know he's on the fucking building already.
Yeah.
So that's one of the few flaws I could see in that whole in the original is that particular scene where they're just sitting on her bed next to a window when they know he's on the building.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you would get out of sight at least.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I mean, they had to set it up because they needed to get her up to the top of the building, blah, blah, blah. Right?
Yeah.
So they could have come up with a better device for that.
Oh,
but that's
Jackson's, it's just like, we're climbing, we're climbing.
Yeah.
I mean, we really get into a lot of detail on the Empire State Building to get to the top of it. Although, once I got to the top, because I thought, oh man, that looks really shitty in the 33. I'm like, no, I guess that's just the way it looked.
Yeah.
Because Jackson's looked exactly the same.
Exactly.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, they all have things to like. I think that's what I like about these movies is they all have different things to like.
Oh yeah.
Which is nice when we talk about these remakes and stuff like that. It's sometimes you just can't find anything to like in a remake. In this one, I found something to like in all of them.
Oh yeah, and I mean, like when we talk about remakes, 76, they were trying to go their own way and make it a new thing, kind of what we want. They were a little bit. It didn't go as well, but they were at least trying something new. It's not a beat for beat remake.
No, the 76 is the one that's the most different, where Jackson, for the most part, sticks to the script. He changes some things here and there, but for the most part, it's the same movie, just with a lot of extras.
And I did have one thing to add to that.
Sure, yeah, because we're getting to the close here. When we're talking about like almost 6 hours of movie here.
6 hours.
Yeah, almost 6 hours of movies.
More than
we're
6.
just not going to be able to touch on. We're just grazing the surface here. But
let's see, 3 hours 14, 2 hours 10. That's 5:10 plus another hour 40. Almost 7 hours.
7 hours. So there's just no way we're going to cover it all in one episode. But
but that's all you get.
That's all you get.
Yeah, but there was one point where in the 2005 where they're talking about why don't we get Faye? And then the guy's like, she's working for Cooper. He's like, Cooper, huh? I might have known. Like, I'm wondering, because this is a Universal, were they taking a dig at Cooper? Just in the script?
They may have been.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. That could have been a nod, because that's why we don't have as many King Kong movies as you'd think we would for such an iconic character.
Yeah, but I mean, when
the sequels never seem to do well. Like,
no,
except for the Toho stuff, who had great success with that stuff, they just couldn't hold on to it. Son of Kong didn't do well at all. They lost money on that thing.
King Kong Lives,
and King Kong Lives was almost 10 years after.
10 years later, but
as
direct.
A direct sequel. Because
they used the end footage. The end footage of the 1976 one is used at the beginning of the 1986 one.
And that tanked as well, I think. So
It did. But I think that's actually one I saw in the theaters.
I'm pretty sure I have never seen King Kong Lives. So.
Oh, I know I've seen it. I don't remember it, but I do know I've seen it.
It's silly, ridiculous, but young Linda Hamilton, I am on board with that.
All right, we're going to get into some post-Oscar coverage here, but before we do, if you dig this show, do us a favor, like, share, and subscribe, especially on iTunes. Give us a 5-star rating, and write us a review. If we get to 100 views, we'll do a bonus episode that you can pick. We'll run a poll on our Twitter feed, so please go there, write us a review, and you can get a bonus episode, and we'll let you pick what that is. But you have to get us to that goal before we do it. And if it takes too long, we'll take it off the table. So come on.
You can do it.
Get on it.
You know that there's at least 100 listeners out there. You can do it in one day.
Yeah, if all of you just get together.
That's right. We want
this
thousands.
is like crowdfunding, but you don't have to give shit.
Yeah, and writing a review really helps other people find the show. So please go and do that, and of course just click on those 5 stars. It helps us out immensely. You can also follow us on Twitter. We're at Invasion Remake. We're on Facebook. You can like our page there. Of course, it's Invasion of the Remake, and you can write us emails, invasionoftheremake@gmail.com. Send us your questions, comments, hate mail, whatever.
Sure.
If it starts out negative, I might not finish reading it, but
we'll start reading it.
We'll take it.
Yeah, exactly.
But try to be positive about the show, because we love doing this for you, and we're going to do it regardless of whether you're listening or not.
if you have ideas, there might be some movies we hadn't even thought of.
We'll certainly take requests. And, of course, another way you can help out the show is to tell other people about the show and how to listen to us. We're available everywhere. You already know we're on iTunes. We're on Stitcher. We're on Google Play Music. We're even on YouTube. We're on Audio Boom, TuneIn Radio, and Player FM, and so many more. So get their devices. Tell them, what do you listen to your podcasts on? Find us. Subscribe them, because you'll never miss an episode that way. And more people will be listening, so that helps us out a lot. We don't have advertisers, and we do this out of pocket, so help us get more people listening, and support independent podcasters, because we're not going to be talking about Harry's razors and And
we're a mom and pop operation.
Yeah, we're a mom and pop operation, so that's the only way we're gonna succeed is with you guys out there and help keep the show going by getting us more listeners.
And we like you. We really, really like you.
That's right. We do indeed.
Don't make us come in our giant monkey costume and kidnap you and take you up a big building.
Now, we watched the Oscars last week, me and Trish, and shit happened.
A lot of shit happened.
A lot of shit happened. It was a pretty good show. I think Jimmy Kimmel did a good job on the show.
I think
so. We made our predictions last week, and now let's see how we did.
Ooh.
Now,
are you sure you have the right envelope?
Yeah, that kind of changed things because I was kind of marking these as we were going and seeing how we did, and because of that, it created some drama in the room.
Well, not like about the same amount of drama that happened on stage. We're both fine with it.
Well, it started out. I was starting to get stuff right out of the gate.
Yeah.
And then Sam was, I kind of stalled, and Sam kind of caught up with me, and then nothing with Trish. Trish was just like,
I was dead in the water for half the show.
She was like, oh, Jesus. And then she started getting them. It was like one after another. Sam and I had stalled out, and I'm like, oh, this is going to get neck and neck. It's creating drama in the room, right? Yeah. And I'm like, all right, I got that one. Oh, I got that one. I'm like, uh-oh. I'm looking at I'm like, oh, I might lose this fucking thing. And then they announced that final thing, and La La Land, and Trish is like, yeah, because I went Moonlight. I'm like, fuck. So the original tally was 8, 9, 10. It was that close. And then they go, no, wrong envelope. And then I'm like, I mark her down, mark mine up, and we had a 2-way tie, me and Trish at 9, and Sam sat at 8. So it was really close. It was so close.
And to be fair, when I was like going, yes, that was about me winning, I like Moonlight as a movie. I am glad it won. Just FYI, I want to clarify that. I'm pleased that it won. And the reason I voted against it, because I didn't trust the Academy.
And hey, I did predict there would be a split between director
you did, and you got that.
Best Picture, and I got both of them. So that I was pretty proud of that. But overall, I'm like, I actually had less than I normally do as far as guesses. But 8, 9, that's pretty good. It was very competitive. A different year, very competitive year.
And I find it really hard when it's like 10 films for Best Picture. That's a hard, like all those films, it's really hard to pick.
It is when they're all spectacular, though. Although, it's generally speaking, your director's going to be nominated for Best Picture as well. Yeah. It's really rare where that doesn't happen, and that did happen with Argo, where I don't think Ben Affleck was nominated for director, so he got a producer award for that one. Yeah. But that was I think the only time that ever happened. It was an interesting ceremony, especially near the end. It's definitely going to be memorable. Like, how do you fuck that up? Especially it was the category they just did before that one.
I think that's how, because
they handed him.
Emma Stone was talking about she had her envelope.
Sealed?
She has
duplicate envelopes.
They have a backup. They have a backup because apparently a backup's a good idea just in case something happens, whereas the backup was the reason for the problem.
Well, how they didn't run out and realize that, but
because the guy who was holding the envelope was tweeting backstage at that moment, so he handed the wrong.
Hey, Price Waterhouse, you might be looking for another gig.
They got fired.
But when you look,
did they
got fired? Yeah.
Well, when you look at it again, there's a guy with a headset who ran out when they realized what had happened.
Yeah, but Warren Beatty noticed, and he's like, "Am I seeing this right?" And
hands it off to Faye Dunaway to take the bullet.
I'll make it her fault. She just read the name, not realizing she's looking at a Best Actress thing.
Look, if you're confused, Warren, just say, "I don't think I have the right envelope." It's that fucking simple.
Yeah, it would still cause some drama, but a lot less.
Yeah. True. And like, Warren, you've been in Hollywood.
You wouldn't have been taking heat for it then.
True. And it's like, Warren, you've been in Hollywood for decades. Honestly, if you'd said something, nobody would have given you any shit.
Yeah, right?
Especially considering you're freaking 110 years old.
It would have been fine.
And maybe that's why he was just that old age confusion. We'll call it a grandpa moment.
No,
because he was smart enough to hand it off to Faye Dunaway.
That's true. I'm not going to take the heat on this.
That's the thing. He knew there was something wrong, but the thing is, dude, you've been there long enough. You can say if something is wrong.
They don't have like the double X thing or like sports do.
Or time.
Man on the field.
Not for
Warren,
Lego,
it's just a T sign. Time. Say, I think there's a problem.
I need to confer in the corner. I'm not sure. We're going to create some more because they thought he was creating drama.
No,
and he knew that it was, but it wasn't. He wasn't creating it. He was just didn't know how to deal with it.
Yeah,
yeah,
and because that's the situation that's never come up, and it's too bad that two legends kind of had to take that hit.
Well,
but
what's terrible is that
I don't think anybody ever blamed them, though.
No. What's terrible is the time lost for the creators of Moonlight to give their acceptance speeches. That's the dumb part.
Well, but you know what? And La La Land having an award that was taken away from it, but boy, they handled that gracefully.
Oh yeah, they're like, you get up here now, please.
He's like, I am completely happy to hand this award off to them. Like that was so graceful, and I'm sure there were disappointments after the show, but
they were classy in the moment.
They were so classy about it in the moment.
But I would say in the chaos La La Land, once the Moonlight guys get up on stage, go to the back so you're not in the way for them to get to the microphone. Just saying.
You know, outside of a lot of Trump jokes, and I'm sure people got really drunk off our rules.
Oh yeah, we gave those up halfway through. Just FYI.
There wasn't a lot of grandstanding in the acceptance speeches, which I was actually kind of surprised about. No moments of political statements.
Well, it is.
There was a little bit in the documentary stuff for sure.
There was, but I mean, the point was when we're talking political, they're talking about how like this is how far we've gone. They're talking about like this is how maybe we change things. That's where the politics were. It wasn't antagonistic. It was about saying, guys, just let's get a grip here.
Mm-hmm. I think everybody's aware of the situation. I mean, it feels like it's been 110 years already.
Yeah. And like we're getting bullshit across the border now. Like fuck,
it's too much. So.
Can we get our asteroid now? Because I think we've proved we can't do this. We suck at all of this. Let's get rid of everything and start over.
The Oscar rules, drinking rules, still apply right now.
Yeah, every time Trish says asteroid, take a bottle of vodka and shoot it, and then you don't have to deal with the world anymore.
All right. Well, I don't want to talk politics.
No,
King Kong was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that.
I will fully admit.
I am happy to share my KFC coupon with Trish.
Nice
for
sure.
Our Oscar win. No KFC for you.
That's okay.
You can sniff the gravy.
We can give Sam some fries and gravy.
Oh, okay.
Oh, fries. Yeah, okay.
All right.
You don't like the gravy?
Oh no, I love the gravy. I just don't like the chicken.
Okay.
I like the smell, but I don't like the taste.
Well, I offered you fries and gravy, not chicken, so you're fine.
So I'm good. Yes, we're good. Yeah. Fries and gravy are awesome.
Yeah, we can give him a poutine, a KFC poutine.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, no, King Kong's great. I don't know. I would love to see so much footage of that island with him and all the other creatures. I could just watch that without any humans.
Yeah. Well, I for one, I'm really looking forward to Kong Skull Island, if that's a good setup. I'm very curious as to how they're integrating King Kong into this monsterverse with the colossal size difference that they would have. I'm assuming King Kong's going to be larger than its traditional 50 feet.
Probably.
And certainly larger than the 25 that Peter Jackson says his is. So,
ooh.
And considering Godzilla's traditionally around 150 feet, but I think was double that for the legendary movie that was just a few years ago. So, we're going to have a really big Kong.
Or maybe they're taking it the whole way where
they're not going to be eye to eye for sure. But.
Or it was like the original dinosaurs where the tiny mammal survived. Maybe Kong is like the tiny mammal of the big giant monster universe.
Yeah, well, no, I don't. Yeah, well,
he's smart enough and faster.
Yeah, I think he's going to be the underdog kind of character.
Yeah, he could be smarter and faster and survive that way.
Yeah, I think you should keep him smaller, but at this point, he could double his size, and he's still going to be,
a
third of the size of Godzilla. I don't know. I'm looking forward to that movie, but it's going to be a long way off because I think we're going to get another Godzilla first after Skull Island. So I think 2020 is probably the earliest we're going to see that
if we
Versus
all survive,
movie.
Take a drink.
Yeah,
yeah, it's a ways away.
Yeah,
2020. I can't believe we're even talking about 2020 at this point.
But everything's got to be a big multi-film franchise now. They're all thinking universes now, and that's going to eventually crash and burn because everything can't be a multi-universe franchise. I don't see the Universal Monsters thing working, but I hope it does. I'm really a big fan of that, but I don't think that one's going to work. I think the Kong Godzilla universe, if you keep it just to those, keep it small, that'll be fine. I'm okay with that.
Or
keep
you
it
can
smaller.
You can do a whole thing. Just make. I want to see a universe with like the dramatic movies, like Hidden Figures is in the same universe as like Apollo 13 and Fences. And Manchester by the Sea is also like another side character that happens. Just create dramatic universes, guys. Do that.
Shh, they're listening.
I know they're listening. I'm trying to fuck them up. Shh, they won't hear that.
They do that all on their own.
Yes.
All right, with that, I've been Jason.
I've been Sam.
I've been Trish.
We're out of here.
Up there and get himself cornered. The ape must have known what was coming.
He's just a dumb animal. Doesn't know nothing. What does it matter? Airplanes got him.
It wasn't the airplanes. It was beauty killed the beast.